Dad, see what I've made.
Wow, that looks like our new home, huh?
It's as simple as this to make your dream home come true with Bank of Baroda. Easy home loans in UAE and India with simple procedures, quick approvals and low interest rates.
Dad, let's go for a drive in a new car.
Let's go!
Drive your dream car with Bank of Baroda. Speedy car loans at low interest rates. Imagine it and it can be yours. Bank of Baroda, India's international bank.
Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Indian Business and Professional Council, especially to all our guests, members who have joined us from UAE and Israel today. To begin with our session, may I request IBPC Chairman for the opening remarks. Please welcome Mr. Suresh Kumar.
Greetings and distinguished guests from Israel and our dear IBPC members. Both greetings, shaloms, as it were. And let me start by reiterating that the Abraham Accords represent a significant breakthrough in the geopolitical, the geo-economic relationships in the region. It was an accord where the UAE took the lead in forging relationship with Israel and followed quickly by Bahrain and now Sudan as well. So the momentum is certainly building up, and this augurs well for peace and prosperity in the region. Businesses thrive in a climate of peace and where there is world order, there is orderliness in terms of trade and investment flows. And I think these will get a significant fillip from the accord. We're already seeing this in terms of announcements by the day, certainly in the UAE press. Different stakeholders are reaching out to their counterparts. And IBPC would like to support and be a catalyst in this regard. It's in this context that I am also happy to announce that IBPC is supporting an initiative to bring out a UAE-Israel business guide, which will serve as a definitive document to help strengthen the contacts between the two countries in the region. And gradually this will be extended to Bahrain and perhaps other GCC countries as well as we progress. So I'm very happy to welcome our dear guests from Israel. And this promises to be an impressive assembly of eminent veterans in terms of the industry and businesses in the UAE. The Indian community particularly plays a very strong role in the businesses in the UAE and have always been, in a very positive sense, opportunistic when it comes out to opening up new markets, reaching out to them, and have more than 100 years of trading experience and working with counterparties in different countries, both in terms of trade and investments. So I'm very happy that IBPC is hosting this webinar and look forward to hearing from the distinguished guests and our industry veterans from the UAE. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Suresh Kumar, for that very excellent opening remarks. As usual, very well said. Good evening to all. Masah al-Khair, Erev Tov, to all our Israeli friends. Welcome you all to this very special event, World of Opportunities, Doing Business in UAE and Israel, organized by the Indian Business and Professional Council, Dubai. The historic UAE-Israel deal ushers in a new era. It opens a new chapter. It reflects the new reality. It is a pivot of history. It's heralding a new dawn and a new tomorrow. In the book, My Vision, Challenges in the Race for Excellence, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai, says, "We have succeeded because we always believed tomorrow is a new day, and yesterday's achievements are in the past. And history will only record what we will achieve in the future, not what we have achieved in the past. My name is Sudhir Kumar, Senior Partner and Head Corporate Communications, Creston Menon. I've been in the UAE for the last 30 years. We have speakers and panelists from Israel and across the UAE. We have a diplomat, we have a senior business expert, we have veteran businessmen from Israel and UAE, we have heads of free zones, we have an expert who is specialized in the India-UAE-Israel corridor, we have a chartered accountant, and many. And I'm looking at the numbers, we are close to 300 plus, and many in the waiting room. That makes us the question, why are we all here? UAE and Israel signed the Abraham Accord on September 15th. It's hardly 40 days, and a slew of bilateral agreements have been signed between UAE and Israel. Agreements on reciprocal setting up of embassies, agreements on direct flights, visa-free entry, in financial infrastructure, avoidance of dual taxation, investment protection, and a $3 billion Abraham Fund is being set up for mutual investments. Technology and innovation is going to be the bridge between the UAE and Israel ecosystems and communities. UAE and Israel has got remarkable similarities in many ways. UAE has a population of 9.8 million and Israel has a population of 9.1 million. The UAE GDP stands at $421 billion and Israel GDP stands close to $400 billion. UAE has a population of 450,000 SMEs and Israel has a population of 550,000 plus SMEs. Our travel times are 3 hours, our weather conditions are similar. And UAE-Israel trade volume is predicted to be $4 billion in the next 2 years. There are many other tie-ups happen. DP World bidding for Haifa Port. We have Abu Dhabi Stem Cell Research Company tying up with Pluristin Technology. We have ADIO tying up with the fintech community there. ADIO setting up their offices there. Haptur Group tying up with Mobileye, which is the leader in artificial intelligence for mobile cars, robo cars, and the Dubai Diamond Exchange signing up with the Israel Diamond Exchange, and many. The possibilities between UAE and Israel are endless. To talk on this and much more, we have 6 speakers and 5 panelists. And we are going to be here for the next 90 minutes or so. And I request all of you, we have a Q&A to raise your questions. And with that, I'm happy to introduce our first speaker, Doran Rosenblum.
Thank you,
Doran
Sudhir.
Rosenblum is the managing partner of Creston Ezra Yehuda Rosenblum, leading the risk advisory practice of Creston IL Group. He is a certified internal auditor and certified in risk management assurance with over 25 years of experience helping major organizations in Israel. He has a bachelor's degree in accounting and an MBA from the University of Manchester. Doran is the vice president of the Institute of Internal Auditors in Israel and a former board member of Institute of Internal Auditors Global Board of Directors. Doran, welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Sudhir. Good evening, dear participants. Greetings from Israel. Thank you, IBPC Dubai. Thank you, CB Sudhakaran, General Manager. And thank you, Sudhir Kumar from Creston Menon for inviting me to speak in this prominent forum as the sun sets on the beautiful Tel Aviv coastline, as you can see behind me. The Abraham Accord was signed on September, and since then, all social and business networks are boiling, full of proposals of both investments and professional services. Every week, there's at least one conference or webinar about doing business in the UAE and Israel. We are all talking about an accord between 2 young countries. I myself am a year older than the UAE, and we are all eager to do business and meet our counterparts. Apart from business, tourism will also be a major part of this accord, welcoming tourists to both countries. We are all waiting for COVID-19 to go away so we can continue with our lives. I have clients asking me already where they should book hotels ahead of time for next year's Expo in October 21. The UAE uniqueness as the gateway to the Middle East market and the hub between East and West with people and business-friendly government assures that this endeavor will succeed. The uniqueness of the UAE as a bridge to India, as the UAE's top partner in the GCC, is also a huge plus, with over 100,000 Indian companies operating in the UAE. There are proposed bilateral agreements on trade and investments, aviation, civil aviation, tourism, trade and economic relations, science and technology, healthcare, agriculture, energy, water and desalination, and more. Civil aviation agreements were signed and more are on the way, with direct flights expected January 1st, even with kosher food options on deck. The first cargo ship docked at the port of Haifa this month, and DP World is bidding to operate a port in Haifa. I'm here to invite you to do business also in Israel. Israel is ranked first in the world for innovative capacity and first in the world for entrepreneurship. Israel's creative, skilled, and ambitious workforce is one of the most obvious reasons leading executives turn to Israel to do business. Israel boasts one of the most highly educated, entrepreneurial, and multicultural workforce in the world. The richness of Israel's different cultures results in a flexible work system across sectors and locations. The reason why Israel is your next best investments are endless. Israel has an increasingly strong and resilient economy with consecutive years of significant GDP growth above that of the OECD and the US. And 5% unemployment rate is among the world's lowest without the COVID-19, of course. Despite the regional geopolitics challenges, the Israeli economy has been identified as one of the healthiest and most secure in the world. Israel is ranked number 4 for research personnel and has the highest concentration of engineers and PhDs per capita in the world. These unique features lay the foundation for successful research and innovation. Israel is a spiritual hub for innovation and a powerhouse for revolutionary R&D that is changing the world of media and internet, cybersecurity, security, water technology, agrotech, health and life sciences, financial technology, automotive, high-tech, and smart manufacturing. My personal belief is that this accord has so much to contribute, not only to the business world, but also to global peace, as we see more countries joining and signing peace and bilateral agreement. I would like to conclude and invite each one of you to visit Israel. Feel free to contact me in any inquiry. Wishing you all an insightful webinar and a pleasant evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Doran. It was really good information on how UAE and Israel can work closely. Our second speaker is Doran Cohen. Is a reputed Israeli businessman, the CEO of Discount Investment Corporation and the former Director General and the CEO of the Israeli Ministry of Finance. Doran Cohen held executive positions as CEO, Chairman of Board of Directors in top Israeli and multinational companies like Israel Chemicals, Strauss Group, Israel's National Housing Company, Israel Broadband Company, and many. Doran Cohen is a CPA in Israel. He serves as the member of many Israel government committees, NGO boards, and public company boards. My pleasure in welcoming Doran Cohen, and it's yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank first IBPC Dubai for hosting me and inviting me, and especially Sidi Sudhakaran, the general manager, and Sudhir Kumar from Creston Menon for inviting me to speak. I also like to thank Doran Rosenblum, my friend and colleague, that that taking my job as former Director General of Ministry of Finance in Israel for describing the Israeli economy and the opportunities in so excellent way. So thank you, Doran. And since you already done it, I can be focused on describing the company which I'm managing as CEO, which is a discount investment company, one of the leading and the very veteran and reputed holding company and investment companies in Israel, led by the controlling shareholder, Mr. Eduardo Elsten, from Argentina, who is leading IRSA and Pursuit and other companies in Argentina, in Brazil, in Chile, and in many other South American countries, and also holding the company in Israel. With your permission, I'll start in describing our company in order to open the window for future cooperations and investment. The company has several areas of investments and expertise, and I think that talking specifically and not in generally will maybe enable you to think about the possible cooperation that we might have. The company is investing in a broad areas, a variety of areas like real estate, communication, high-tech, agriculture, and finance. And I think that if I give a short description, it will enable us to think about future cooperation and collaboration. So one of the major assets of the company is PBC, which means Properties and Buildings Company, which is also a listed company. This company holds several assets in the real estate area, including buildings in the United States, including in the HSBC building in Manhattan, and buildings in Las Vegas, and also few companies of retail and commercial activities in Israel. Especially PVC holds 30% of Gavyam. Gavyam is the leading offices company in Israel. Gavyam has over 1 million square meters of offices, which are located in the best locations of the high-tech zone in Israel, in Tel Aviv, in Herzliya, in Haifa, in Beersheba, and many other places. And among among the offices, you can find the leading high-tech companies such as Amazon, Microsoft, and many, many others. So this is one of the activity which is high-tech. The second arm of discount investment is Cellcom. Cellcom is one of the leading communication companies in Israel, is the leading cellular company with over 3.5 million subscribers of cellular telephone in Israel, but also activities in all the segments of communication, including internet, fixed line, fiber to the home, and the business services, very, very broad assortment of services of communication to the business sector. The fourth arm is Elron, and maybe the most interesting when we talk about Israel and the shared interesting of Israel and the UAE. Elron is a high-tech company, one of the first in Israel, established since 1962, and now active, holding more than 25 startups and active in 3 areas: in the medical devices, in the cybersecurity, and the enterprises information. Everyone holds the companies directly or through RDC, which is 50% subsidiary, held also by Rafael, which is the advanced Israeli aerospace and defense company, which enable huge contribution to the high-tech companies in Israel. One more arm is Mehadrin, which is an agriculture company, deal both with the plantations and the exportation, the marketing, and the logistic of the agriculture, including citrus avocado, and dates. We also managed to talk to some clients or potential clients in the UAE about the dates especially. And we have a lot of huge opportunities of dates in Israel. We have Epsilon, which is an investment house, also holds Epsilon Underwriting, which is the leading underwriting and investment banking company in Israel. So altogether, together with high liquidity of about 7 billion shekel in Israel, we can offer not only corporations, but also cooperation in new investments, either in Israel, in the UAE, or in other places, taking opportunities with our investment house, with our cash, and with good partners. I think we can do very good business in Israel, in the UAE, and all over the world.
Thank you, Doran Cohen, for your thoughts on the new era. We'll meet you shortly again for the panel session. Our next speaker, I'm honored to welcome our keynote speaker, Dr. Dan Shaham Ben Hayun, head of the Israeli mission to the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA UAE, and the Special Envoy for Science and Applied Research of Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Dr. Dan is a seasoned Israeli diplomat who served in Europe, Africa, USA, and Asia, and specializes in innovation diplomacy. Dr. Dan's delegation was Israel's first official foothold in the Arab Gulf. My pleasure to welcome Dr. Dan.
Shalom, everyone. I can just repeat the wonderful greetings of my esteemed colleagues, thanking the organizers for really making it possible for me, for us to communicate, to discuss, and to see what is really the opportunities that we have in this historical time. And it is historical opportunity. For many years, the Middle East was something that one associated with conflict, and all of a sudden we came and we have shown that when there is a will, there is a way. And I think that in this regard, we get a very clear message from everybody involved that we want to support the business community as a government. We have done, I think, a major step in last week in exempting visitors from visas. So basically, you guys, businessmen or tourists, who hold an Emirati passports. I know that not all of you are holding Emirati passports, but those that are, they will be able to travel back and forth with ease. We will have an embassy for those who do need and require visa, which will provide the first step into going to Israel, visiting Israel, and exploring business opportunities. Let me tell you that all Israelis, and I can say it very clearly, maybe except for my mom, who is 87 years old, everybody wants to come to Dubai and Abu Dhabi and to connect with what is going on there. It's really an amazing phenomenon. You see friendship and excitement. You see people from the entire spectrum of the Israeli society and economy wanting to connect. This connection is going to be done, I assume, in a variety of ways. And you, seasoned businessmen that understand the local market and the re-export possibilities. If Dubai is a leader in a variety of things, financial markets and business and tourism, it's also a leader in re-export. And I think that many Israelis will look to you guys as people who are really engaged with the variety of possibilities to show them the way. Israelis, as you know, are very dynamic businessmen, and they will engage with you in a very open and direct manner. And from how I see the relations with India, I can only look forward to very, very good discussions and communication between all parties. As far as the government is concerned, I can only repeat, we will give our full support, be it Ashra, the Israeli arm that insures and give the risk warranty and insurance to businesses in favored condition. They've already indicated. We see the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi as a good, solid market, not a risky place. And I think that in this regard, you guys can benefit from that. The Israeli businessmen would be more than happy to look into opportunities of import and export. We understand that it's a two-way street, and be innovative. At the end of the day, this is a new market for us. It is a new market that we do not understand completely, and you guys do understand. So you guys, in many instances, are the hosts. Lead us, teach us, show your partner what is the right way. There are issues of ownership, of businesses, free zones. What is the legislation regarding it? United Arab Emirates has a certain business procedures and ethics. Show the Israelis, teach them. Israelis are keen to learn and will be very open for your remarks. So be very open with the Israelis. Israeli businessmen are really forward-looking, very engaged. But if there are things that should not be done, tell them. Be very open, be very honest. There is not an issue. Israelis are not easily offended, believe me. And it's okay. So we look forward, we as a government, to see you as really pushing forward with your initiatives, and we will support it. We really want to support that kind of a direct business engagement from both sides.
Thank you, Dr. Dan. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent information. And the collaboration which happens between UAE and UAE is regularly increasing, and we are getting more active. Thank you so much. Our next speaker, Samir Chaturvedi, Chief Executive Officer, Khalifa Industrial Zone, Abu Dhabi, KIZAD, a very good friend of mine for many, many years. The integrated trade and industrial hub of the government of Abu Dhabi. Samir have over 35 years of experience of working with global organizations. Samir oversees KIZAD's portfolio of assets, activities, operations, and growth strategy. Samir will be speaking on how UAE, Abu Dhabi, and KIZAD are ready to welcome Israel and Israeli businessmen. Samir, welcome, and it's all yours.
Thank you, Sudhir, and Suresh, Doran, and Dan. I actually share everyone's excitement on this new accord and the door opening between UAE and Israel. Interestingly, I am among the very few in this place who have lived and worked in Israel in my past life. So I worked in Haifa, lived in Herzliya, and I still remember the tandoori restaurant of Rina and Vinod, which I spent a lot of my time in. So this reopening has been special for me, and I'm looking forward to engaging with my old friends. I represent Abu Dhabi, the Abu Dhabi's industrial ecosystem, and would talk a little bit about what we are doing in Abu Dhabi and how we are trying to get the industrial environment stronger to receive our friends and colleagues from Israel also. Abu Dhabi is the largest emirate of UAE, over almost 250 billion in GDP as of last year, over 60% of UAE GDP. It has created an infrastructure to support industry in all possible ways. A very pro-business location where changes are being made in our soft and hard infrastructure to make sure that we can sustain industries of all types. Recently, Abu Dhabi also made, or UAE made a decision to allow 100% ownership for foreign companies in UAE in almost 122 different industrial activities. Anyway, free zones have always been free and 100% ownership was allowed at all times in this place. There are no income taxes. The quality of life is something which we have all known and people have talked about. We are said to be the happiest city in the Arab region, the safest city in the world, and the best city for expats to live in. And interestingly, I came in UAE in almost 20 years back for a 2-year assignment. No wonder I decided never to leave. And this is the home now. The business ecosystem Abu Dhabi has created has multiple pillars which actually support the industrial activity of all kinds. Above all, the Emirate has an entrepreneurial mindset and trying to understand the industrial requirement of industries from their perspective and creating an enabling environment for the industries. Funding has been a challenge in this regional market, but Abu Dhabi has also created some very interesting vehicles like RDO, ADQ, Mubadala, who have been looking at providing support, subsidies, funding to various industries in the core sector. The infrastructure has been planned based on the best experiences of the world and using the best minds, which caters to all industries to ensure that we can keep our industries competitive. There are 16 universities, including Khalifa University, INSEAD, NYU, Abu Dhabi Mohammed bin Zayed University, and the artificial intelligence in the area. There's a multinational talent pool of resources which can be used to create any industry successful. And that has been one of the biggest benefits that Abu Dhabi offered. Talking a bit about the industrial ecosystem that I represent in Abu Dhabi. We have 5 zones in Abu Dhabi covering 550 square kilometers of area, out of which 100 square kilometers is a dedicated free zone. Now, this area is almost 80% of the size of Singapore. So we are fairly large in size. Over 1,500 companies currently operate in these industrial zones, and there is space for many more. As of now, only around 25 to 30% of this area is developed, and we are in the process of developing another 40-45% of the area in the coming 5 to 10 years. Kizad, the company that I lead currently, is one of the largest integrated maritime and industrial ecosystems in the world. A very ambitious project of Abu Dhabi government. Is spread over 400 square kilometers with both free zone and industrial zone, local industrial zone opportunities. We take pride in our customer-focused approach, a sustainable and collaborative industrial ecosystem. And for the same reason, we have been rated among the very best industrial zones in the Middle East in only this month. The zone has been created with an ambition to connect it with the global markets. The infrastructure of ports and airports is exceptional, with 4 airports being connected, reachable within a 60-minute driving time from the zone, and the fastest growing port in the world, Khalifa Port, right next to the zone. Yeah, I've talked about this. We connect to almost all countries in the world through our shipping and airline routes, through the airports within UAE and the ports. From from Kizad, almost 75% of UAE population and 89% of UAE economy can be reached in less than 1 hour of driving time. I'm trying to go quick to make sure that I make it within my 10 minutes stipulated time. Again, the biggest benefit that we provide is we actually manage the interface between our customers and all government entities operating within Abu Dhabi. From starting a company, registering a company, finding a place to operate in, or building your own factory, getting your building permits, operation requirement, visas, connectivity, port, through customs operation, all can be managed through a single platform operated by our organization. That means a customer operating inside needs one platform access and they can reach the entire market in the area. Though we have the size, infrastructure, and ability to access virtually all industries, our focus in the current phase has been on 7 key industries. And all this is based on the industrial raw material available, the expertise we actually have, ability to move goods around in the area and support our industries in various ways. These industries are polymers, downstream and upstream, thanks to ADNOC, one of the largest global producer of oil and gas and chemicals in the world. Metals, upstream and downstream, all the way to steel, aluminium, and all different alloys. Again, based on the key sources out of EGA, Emirates Global Aluminium, the largest aluminium smelter in the region, and Emirates Steel Industry, again, a major steel supplier in the area. Food security has been a key focus for UAE, and Abu Dhabi have taken some very strong and decisive steps in the area. Food and agri-tech stays the prime focus for Kizad, for Abu Dhabi and UAE economy in the current areas. This is one area where we are seeing a lot of interest out of Israel. We are connecting with a lot of expertise and investment interest in the area. We are developing currently a 10 square kilometer agri-tech park supported by Abu Dhabi government, Kizad, and some of the local investors within UAE. And we invite Israeli companies to look at this and see how we can jointly develop this opportunity further. Logistics with the ports and airports, connectivity, road that we have already in place has been a key focus area for our operation. We are also building a railway link to our zone of a port with the entire Middle East, which should be the link between our ports and the Saudi border should be operational by 23-24. And we believe with the Saudi links getting ready and market opening, we soon should be able to reach all the way up to Israel through rail and road also. Automotive has been a key area of focus for us, so is high-tech and life sciences. All these areas, we believe there is enough opportunity to cooperate and collaborate with our Israeli friends. Again, how do we look after our industries? How do we work at our customers? We do not see our business based on our land or our ports or our airports. We see our business based on our customers and from their perspective. And we are committed to make sure that we are able to provide them cost, speed, scale in their business in all things that they do. We want to provide them with the best-in-class cost of production, cost of a startup, cost of reaching their markets, speed in terms of getting to operational very, very fast and being able to reach their customer markets in the fastest possible way. Last but not the least is scale, which is a key area of our focus. And that's why our 400 square kilometer zone provides the customer opportunity of starting from a small little office or a warehouse all the way to mega industries. Currently, we have got food manufacturing industries in 1 kilometer square area, and the aluminium smelter currently operational in Kizad is almost a 7 square kilometer development by the port. Creating a vibrant community and predictability in everything that we provide and our customers do is, again, a focus for us, and that's how we stay competitive in the market on a regular basis. Briefly, we have a product portfolio which goes through from small desks where a company can just come in, a single startup company can operate from, to offices, pre-built offices, warehouses, all the way from 300 square meters going up to 1 million square meters on the same area. Various kind of units to support all kind of businesses, and ability to build anything that our customers need on a customized bespoke basis. Again, the basic issue here is that we are able to provide you what you require. A company operating in free zone can also have a dual license to operate and compete in the local tenders, local businesses. It is no longer a different requirement. You can have 2 licenses to operate using the same facility and don't need to go and register in different places. No restriction on profit and capital repatriation, no foreign exchange controls. Objective is one and single. The customers who come and operate here, they need to be competitive, and we will support them all the way. That's about Kizad. Again, reiterating that we are very excited about this Abraham Accord and would like to engage with companies in Israel and see how we can help them establish, operate, and succeed in this market. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir. That was a very detailed perspective about Kizad and the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. Thank you so much. I am informed that if Samir may go in few minutes due to some other appointment, so I will have to welcome Khalid Marzuki, Director Commercial Kizad, who is with us. Now on Khalid, good evening. Now I go to our next speaker, Sanjeev Datta, Executive Director of Commodities and Financial Services, DMCC, Dubai Multi-Commodities Center. Sanjeev is part of DMCC from its inception and was instrumental in setting up DMCC Tea Center, DMCC Coffee Center, and the award-winning DMCC Trade Flow Platform. Sanjeev will be speaking on how UAE, Dubai, and DMCC are ready to take this new era forward. Welcome, Sanjeev. It's all yours.
Thanks for the very warm welcome. And ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's always great, speaking to the Business and Professional Council in whatever aspect, because, I represent an organization which is the Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, DMCC as it's very widely known. And we stand for trade. So our tagline is that we are made for trade. And with the evolution of the fact that, we are very key in having underlined Dubai's role as a global gateway for trade, whether it's a gateway to the east or a gateway to the west, we are perfect in terms of being at the center part of demand and supply. And that's one of the reasons, we have achieved much success. And since inception, 2002, 1st of May, we're now home to over 18,000 companies. And very proudly rated the best free zone by the Times FDI magazine for 6 years in a row. So we're extremely proud of that, not for ourselves, but for the trade community. Now, very quickly, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to look at the opportunities available through DMCC Dubai, especially in light of the growing trade ties with Israel. Now, when you talk specifically about the Dubai and the DMCC opportunity, Over the years, Dubai has been established as, a global trade hub, one of the world's top locations to set up a company to do business. Within a 6.5-hour flight radius, you are connected to over 65% of the world's GDP. Now, since 2002, DMCC has been at the forefront of all of that, growing the Emirates, capabilities and offerings across the full trade spectrum. So it's not only to do with a segment of trade, but every aspect of trade. Now, at DMCC, we are constantly striving to increase the ease of doing business while ensuring transparency through rules and regulations. And while we talk DMCC, I'd urge you to visit our very interactive website, have a look at our corporate video, etc. But I thought, we'd spend more time discussing the core behind what we've been doing in terms of connecting trade between these three countries. Now, interestingly, one of the major findings from our very recently launched thought leadership piece, which is the Future of Trade report, which we've now released the third version of, when it talks about the international collaboration as one of the 4 key drivers that could see a boost of almost $18 trillion in global trade by the year 2030. I'll talk about the Future of Trade report for 2 minutes a little later. So if you look at what is happening amidst the backdrop of the current global healthcare situation, the pandemic, as we all know it, the optimism posed by the Future of Trade report, today's discussions on how UAE, Israel, and India can work together are coming at a very incredibly important time. Now, secondly, when you talk about Dubai and Israel, the Abraham Accord, it represents the beginning of a strategic shift across the region with enhanced commercial ties, greater regional stability, and numerous opportunities which stem from the agreement. It was very interesting to listen to my speakers about how excited, they are. We are equally excited. So the pandemic for DMCC, for people in trade, for people like myself who live and breathe trade throughout, has been incredibly exciting. Now, in particular, the agreement with Israel opens up bilateral trade opportunities across multiple sectors, whilst also enhancing the region's stability, which in turn provides an even better environment for businesses to operate in. When you talk more specifically about DMCC and Israel, and thank you, Mr. Sudhir Kumar, for including the accord which we've signed from the diamond industry, the Dubai Diamond Exchange, which I'm privileged to be a part of. Now, a couple of days after the official signing of the peace accord, through our Dubai Diamond Exchange, we signed a collaboration agreement with the Israel Diamond Exchange. As part of this, we will be setting up a sales office in Tel Aviv, the home of the Israeli Diamond Exchange, and they will set up a representative office. So bilateral trade will see a lot of uptake. Now, through these offices, we will focus on promoting bilateral trade opportunities, sharing industry knowledge and collaborating on events such as diamond tenders, exhibitions, and conferences. The partnership between the region's diamond hubs and arguably two of the most important diamond centers, this will support growth of both regional and global diamond trade. And interestingly, while we're on the subject of diamond trade, when we were established, diamond trade was a few $100 million. And today we are looking at a few $1 billion worth diamond trade, which happens. And it's a connecting center pot between the rough industry and the polished industry. Now, more importantly, it is an agreement such as the Accord and others that may come up in the future that present great opportunities for Indian companies. Now, what is it in the game for DMCC and India? So if you look at the relationship between UAE and India, the UAE has become India's third largest bilateral trade partner after the US and China. In fact, trade between the two countries hit $60 billion during the financial year 2018-19, and that will only grow. And as DMCC, as part of the bilateral trade agreement between the two countries, we had one of the projects we were working on shortlisted. It is the Agriota platform, which we launched on the 26th of August this year. This is all about a forwards price discovery mechanism to enable everyone across that value chain, from the farmer to the consumer. What's more, Indian citizens contribute significantly to the economic activity in the UAE and comprise the largest gathering of foreign nationals in the country, approximately 30%. And India plays an important part as well in the global trade for a range of commodities, including tea, gold, and diamonds, much of which DMCC provides a physical platform. So for us, it's a blend of both physical as well as digital platform. Corporate strategy is very important when it comes to the words technology and digital, and we've seen how important digital has remained over the last few months. Now, all of these efforts in boosting trade ties with India have been recognized as some of the Indian top companies of India. In total, we have about 2,500 companies registered in our free zone. And this is a number where we're striving to grow as we develop deeper ties. So in summary, it's a perfect conduit between West and East in terms of bilateral trade, in terms of, being able to join the trade ecosystem and, let your businesses thrive. Now, very quickly, the Future of Trade report, it talks not only about the pandemic, it talks about the protectionist mentalities of some of the world's largest economic superpowers. It talks about the advent of digital. It talks about the need for governments and businesses to converge, to invest in the infrastructure, especially in digital space, so that we can stay ahead of the game. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. And I look forward to staying in touch. I look forward to DMCC being able to play a vital role in terms of enhancing, the trade relationships between all the three countries, i.e. UAE, Israel, and India. Thank you.
Thank you so much indeed, Sanjeev. I must say about what I've heard recently many a times, His Excellency Ahmed bin Sulaim, Executive Chairman, Dubai Multi-Commodity Center, talking very passionately about the tie-up between Dubai Diamond Exchange and the Israel Diamond Exchange and the connection with India, Surat. That's something very interesting. We are all looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Sanjeev. Our next speaker, Dr. Azad Moopen, Founder, Chairman, and Managing Director, Aster DM Healthcare. Dr. Azad Moopen doesn't need any introduction, I must say. He's very well known. And if I attempt to list out his achievements, it may take a lot of time. But I must say, Dr. Azad Moopen is an Indian physician turned entrepreneur, philanthropist based in the UAE. And I must also mention here about the group's amazing impact on society and community displayed during the COVID times. Dr. Azad Moopen has been awarded the Pravasi Bharatiya Samman by the President of India and also the 4th highest civilian award, Padma Shri, by the Government of India. I can go with many, but on Dr. Azad Moopen, I must say the following, I love to say following numbers: 25 hospitals, 117 clinics, 3,086 doctors, 7,263 nurses, 10,742 paramedical staff, 4,804 beds, 238 pharmacies, 8 countries, 1 brand, Aster DM Healthcare. Welcome, Dr. Azad Moopen, Founder, Chairman, and Managing Director. It's all yours.
Thank you very much, Sudhir, for that very lavish introduction. And really thank IBPC as well as Kristen Menon for this excellent opportunity. So distinguished speakers, panelists from Israel, from UAE, as well as India. So when I say India, see, if you come to UAE, every third person you meet is going to be an Indian. So without bumping into an Indian, you can't walk around in Dubai or in UAE for that matter. So we are here, and IBPC is the platform which can have that connection. I consider I was just thinking IUI, India, UAE, in Israel. This is going to be a conduit which Mr. Sandeep just now mentioned. So it is something which is so potent. I see huge opportunities. And in the last 1 month, just thinking about how we get connected between UAE and Israel, naturally, India also comes into the picture. So it's a fantastic opportunity. The visionary rulers of the countries, they have made this strategic milestone for regional peace and stability. And that's the most important thing. And it is going to be the one which will bring peace and prosperity to the region. And there are huge opportunities leveraging the resources of both countries. So it may be economic, it may be by way of human capabilities, or it may be technology. There's huge opportunity. And I am going to touch only the area of healthcare, which is our I breathe, eat, and live healthcare. And there are people with us who are doing that, like the numbers which Sudhir kindly mentioned. So I see 3 areas of collaboration in healthcare. One, the medical expertise. The sharing of medical expertise, it's fantastic opportunity. UAE is a country which has got tremendous infrastructure. But because the population is small and because healthcare as an education or research has started only late, we have requirement for people coming from outside. And mostly this was coming from the subcontinent, mostly from India. And the experts are here. If you look at 90% of them will be from India. And of course, we have people from Western countries. But with Israel coming into the picture to get expertise, there is a tremendous explosion of opportunities for Israeli physicians, scientists, innovators to come into this country. We are already seeing that. We were in the last 1.5 to 2 months having some interaction and also developing some relationship with some of the hospital groups in Israel. One of the hospital groups is Sheba Hospital Group. And you may be really surprised that in a country like Israel, which is small, Sheba has 1,700 beds, a single hospital. And it was founded in 1948. And it's paperless digital hospital since 2004. And their expertise on cancer, rehab, and many other areas are tremendous when compared to not only UAE, but even India, where the healthcare over last 5,000 years, we have developed it from the age of the Ayurveda and all. But even when compared to that, the facilities that they have is tremendous. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a potential for the medical expertise being brought here, and there is an opportunity for taking the healthcare in UAE to the next level. That is, by that we can invite people to come in the Middle East to come to Dubai, because everybody wants to come to Dubai because of the infrastructure here. And medical tourism can really boom if we are taking that. Another very important area I see is innovation. Innovation, when we went into the innovative capabilities of the Israeli companies, we were wonderstruck. Be it precision medicine, be it telemedicine, be it robotic surgery, or be it advanced rehab with exoskeleton. Everything, it is much, much ahead when compared to any of that we are doing here or in our country. So I think that there's a huge opportunity for that. In fact, if you look at even Sheba has got something called ARC, which is for acceleration, redesign, and collaboration. And the Israel Innovation Authority is very active. So something which happened even in this brief time is that we have our innovation center situated in Bangalore, the Astor Innovation Center. So we could connect with the Dubai Future Foundation, which is the innovation wing of the Dubai government, and also connect with the Israeli Innovation Authority and think of certain collaborations in that area. So what I'm trying to say is that innovation, every big group, not only Sheba, Rabbam, many other people in Israel are highly into innovation. And that is one area where there can be tremendous opportunity, because UAE also looks at innovation as one of the most important future strategies. And the third one, which I wanted to just mention, is that the opportunities for investment on either side, and mostly as UAE has that funding capability, UAE can definitely look at investments into Israel in the area of healthcare, in the innovation area and the modern areas, as well as in India. There could be a bridge between these countries where there could be an explosion of investments also. I don't want to prolong. I just want to say that one thing which came to our light, and our people were really surprised when we were interacting with the Israeli friends. The way in which the things move, it is so fast, and it's so dynamic, and it's so result oriented. And this is something which comes out, which tells that it is not like talking and meetings and emails and all. They believe in action. So I really appreciate the Israeli colleagues who are here. And I'm sure that there is a huge opportunity for this beyond peace, prosperity. Of course, prosperity comes from business. And I'm sure that even in healthcare, the people's lives can be saved. Thank you very much. May God bless.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Asad Mupin. Very well said. Thank you so much. Now we move on to the panel discussion. I would remind you to keep your questions ready. I'm informed there are many questions already there. Obviously, we may not be able to take all the questions, but we'll try and take the maximum. Now, what I am going to do is list our panelists and then going on with our first panelist. They run through the list of our panelists in no particular order we have. Mohan Valrani, Senior Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Al Shirawi Group of Companies. Another name known to everyone in UAE. Mohan Valrani came to Dubai in 1966, more than 53 years back, and co-founded Al Shirawi Group with Emirati businessman Abdullah Al Shirawi. This partnership has grown over the last 53 years and has passed on to the second generation of both the families. Today, Al Shirawi Group has more than 10,000 employees and 40 diversified large companies, some of them being in the top league in the Middle East. Large investments have been made in printing, fabrication, plastics, and air conditioning industries, logistics, oil and gas, and education. He has been the founding member of the Board of Trustees of the Indian High School and India Club. His passion for education inspired him to launch the Arcadia schools. Recipient of many awards and accolades, he is part of the IBPC governing board. Next in the panel, Doran Cohen. I've already introduced him. And I go to the next, Dheeraj Kanwar, a very good friend of mine, Managing Director, Business Banking, RAK Bank, Bank UAE, which is the SME Bank of UAE. Dheeraj has over 19 years of banking experience across India and the UAE. Dheeraj leads the RAK Bank's business banking division, commercial strategy, business development, and tactical planning. Moshe Kohli is an entrepreneur based in UAE. He's the advisor, investment facilitation for the government of Punjab, India, and decorated army veteran and the past golf captain at the Emirates Golf Club. He's a specialist in the UAE, India-Israel corridor business. Naveen Sharma, Director, Internal Audit, Oasis Investment Company, part of the Al Shirawi Group, UAE, and is the convener, account, audit and advisor, AAA Focus Group of the IBPC Dubai. He is a chartered accountant and was the past chairman of the ICI Dubai chapter, and his tenure is considered exemplary by the fraternity. I will ask each of the panelists 2 to 3 questions. And in the interest of time, I request all the panelists to take not more than 2 minutes maximum per question. Our first panelist for today, Mr. Mohan Valrani. You have been in the UAE for the last 53 years, and now you are seeing a new future being created. Permit me to borrow the words of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and the ruler of Dubai. His Highness says, the future belongs to those who can imagine it, design it, and execute it. It isn't something you await, rather create. How do you see the new future? What are the humongous opportunities coming up in the UAE-Israel deal and coming onwards?
The presentation so far has already given a lot of details. So I won't get into the micro details. What UAE can do and what Israel can do has already been said quite a bit. But on a lighter note, the presentation has been pretty heavy. On a lighter note, I told my wife that Israel is one of the largest importer of diamonds. So she said, oh, very good. We must visit Israel. Maybe we get cheaper diamonds. I said, I don't know. So I have been practicing yoga for the last 20, 25 years or 30 years. And before I start my yoga, that is meditation and mantras, there's one favorite mantra which I chant, which has really helped me in progressing in business and staying in Dubai and facing good times, difficult times, but we have sailed through all. I'll chant this mantra with your permission, Sudhir. Sahana vavatu, sahana bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinaavadidamatsu, mavit vishavahai. It is my favorite mantra in the morning. I say, may we all be protected, may we all be nourished, may we all work together with great energy, may our intellect be sharpened, let there be no animosity, let there be peace in me, in nature, and peace in the divine forces. Since last 53 years back, entered into a partnership with the Al-Shirawi family. A partnership between an Indian family and an Arab family. A partnership between a Hindu family and a Muslim family. And we have been together in good and difficult times. The first generation, that is me, I completed 80 years last 30th September. But age is only a number. I don't think I look that old. We have handed over, the second generation is well in place, doing an excellent job, managing 40 companies. Now, people ask me, what has been the reason behind it? How have you managed 53 years, different cultures, different everything? I said, tolerance is the key. Tolerance and transparency. It leads to trust. Tolerance, transparency, trust attracts talent. This is the strength of UAE. Tolerance is our strength. People from all over the world, every country, they reside in UAE. People from every religion, they are allowed to practice. They are allowed to practice their religion without any botheration. They are allowed to live within their culture without creating any disturbances. So this is the biggest strength of UAE, that is tolerance. Because if there is no tolerance, no transparency, no trust, you can never attract talent. And if you cannot attract talent, you cannot progress. No country in the world can progress without attracting talent. This is the reason why UAE is the most advanced country in the Middle East. I'm not comparing UAE with Israel. We both are equally good, but this has been the backbone. Now they say that don't let a crisis go to waste. At the moment, the world is going through a crisis. Every disaster is an opportunity. But I say every peace treaty is a bigger opportunity. What peace can do, disaster or crisis cannot. I must congratulate the leadership in UAE and the leadership in Israel for signing this peace treaty, the Abraham Accord. And I recommend they definitely deserve a Nobel Prize, because this is a beginning of a bigger peace treaties which are going to be signed with many other countries to follow. I would just recommend or advise the tour operators in Israel. I don't think they'll be able to manage the rush from UAE. There is something called curiosity tourism. Everybody, the entire population in UAE is curious to visit Israel, just to see what Israel is. But for us, for the last 52 years, Israel has been like a country in a different planet, maybe Mars or somewhere. So we want to know what Israel is. So there's going to be curiosity tourism, religious tourism, and of course, business travel. And now, after listening to Dr. Mupin, there will definitely be medical tourism also. Of course, Israel is known as the startup capital of the world. Already everything has been said about technology, about diamonds, about the exports. While Israel, now this I'm talking to you from personal experience. We have got 7 million square feet built up area of shades with 16-meter height, housing various industries. And the ease of doing business in UAE is too good. I cannot describe. It has already been described by Kezat and others. So the biggest strength of setting up industries here is, which we have experienced, I'm giving you my trade secrets, is you can be from any country, but you can import manpower from anywhere in the world, skilled, unskilled, anything you want, any country in the world. A businessman in Israel can set up an industry in UAE, and he can get manpower from anywhere he likes. Everybody's allowed to free to visit UAE. So UAE can be a gateway for Israel, and of course the infrastructure is known. I won't talk much about it. The workforce is the biggest strength. You can get talent from anywhere, anybody, anywhere in the world. So you see this here. I mean, in today's presentation, one of the top men from DMCC is an Indian. Kaizat is an Indian. So that means UAE has no barriers. If you are talented, it doesn't matter whether you are an Indian, whether you are a European, doesn't matter. You are most welcome. So I would just say that future is bright, and we should not allow any force, anybody to disrupt this peace accord. This is very valuable for both the countries and for the world. Thank you very much. God bless.
I have another question. You, Abby, as I say, repeat that. You've been here for 53 years in UAE, and you have seen the comments from various people here. If you want to give one core message from your experience about UAE and the new future being created here, and opportunities coming up for the new generation, for the youth, what do you say?
Opportunities are galore. In today's day and age, the opportunities for the young, because being a technological revolution, a digital revolution. In fact, what I believe is something called as reverse mentoring. I would like my mentor to be at least 25 to 50 years younger than me. So when it comes to technology, we have crossed our age. But for the young, UAE being an open society, being a smart country, a smart city, so is Israel. The opportunities for the future, for the younger generation are a lot. If these two countries work in collaboration and cooperation and not competition, I think we'll fly. Both the countries will prosper and progress a lot.
Thank you very much. You have answered very well. Thank you so much. I move to our next panelist, Doran Cohen. There are different kinds of investors from UAE looking for investments in Israel. What are the ways to do it, and what kind of investment opportunities are available and you suggest? Mr. Doran.
First, if you allow me, I want to thank Mr. Valerie, who talked before me. His words were so inspiring and touching that I will not even try to go in the same route because I cannot compete it, but I'll try to do it in a different route. In Israel, there are a lot of opportunities, and I think the most interesting one, as everybody knows, is of course the high tech. And the high tech in Israel is in many channels, from cybersecurity to enterprise information, to medical devices, to biotechnological and healthcare, like the previous speaker said. So there are many opportunities to elaborate in the high-tech area. And as you said, there are infrastructure and labor in the UAE also that can be also a partnership with the Israeli startups. Another thing that can be done is Israel has a lot of plantations for food production and agriculture. So Israel can both export fruits, dates, and other agriculture products. But I think the most interesting thing to collaborate between Israel and the EU is joint ventures. Not necessarily in Israel or in the EU, because I think that both the nations are nations of entrepreneurs, nations of trade, nations of innovation. And the nature of the people is enabling to do cooperation and collaborations all over the world, in all the segments. They can buy together a building in Manhattan or a production plant in South Korea or any other business in the world. But I think that agriculture, to supply food, whether it's in the UAE itself or in other countries that the UAE people has connections, maybe in Africa, in South America, in any other place that you can find a land and people can come with the connection of the people from the UAE and the know-how in agriculture and water treatment that has been developed in Israel through the last 70 years that can enable a huge, tremendous opportunities in the agriculture segment. We have a company in the agriculture segment called Mehadrin that can contribute to that a lot. In Israel, there are a few companies dealing with water treatment, water distillation, whatever, water recycling. Israel is one of the countries which is recycling, I think, the highest recycling, or almost 90% of the water in Israel are recycled and used for agriculture. So there are many areas of collaboration. The important thing is to get to know by the people and then to find the way for collaboration. And I think that Israelis and the Emirates people, like I said, are both entrepreneurs. And if I may say so also, through my experience all over the world, not only in India, I saw that Israelis and Indians, even in America, in many places, Jews and Indians many times have special connection. They have a lot of common things, and I see a lot of cooperations all over the world, in Europe, in the United States, between Israeli and Indians. And I think that this peace agreement also is an opportunity for the Indian community in the UAE to be the pioneer in developing the collaboration with Israel.
Thank you. And next question is, I have more than 5 UAE national companies here, own companies, which wants to invest in Israel on various sectors. So how we find out the right companies, how we go about it, how we can move ahead?
We can help in 2 aspects for that. First, we have in our group an investment bank and investing house, underwriting company, the leading underwriting company in Israel called Epsilon. So if people want to make some investment in Israel, I think it's the best to endorsement to the people of Epsilon, and they can search for them for opportunities or introduce them with. Only now Epsilon is busy with 5 IPOs. Few of them are in the area of technology, with energy renewal and other aspects that can be very interesting, and also with infrastructure in Israel. So I can give you can have my contacts, and I can connect everyone to Epsilon, and I think this is one of the best things. In addition, as I said earlier, many times to start a business in a new country is better to do with a local partner. Discount Investment is a company which is one of the veteran investment and holding companies in Israel, and it's on few companies in many areas, from real estate to communications to agriculture, and of course high tech, but also is company with very high liquidity. And we are ready to cooperate either in Israel or in abroad with good partners, like you say, holding companies, investment companies that want to invest in Israel. We can search together an opportunity and consider partnerships in the ownership of the company in Israel.
On a quick note, if you can answer quickly, investing from UAE afar is difficult. How investors can manage the remote portfolio? If you can answer quickly, in the interest of time.
I think that Israel has a lot of investors from abroad, from all the companies. So it's very easy to communicate, to come. And like I said earlier, sometimes local partners make it even easier.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Doran Cohen, for your information. I now go to Dheeraj Kanwar. As I said, known to me for many years. My first question, as the SME Bank of UAE and as a banker, what's your take on the new accord, and how RAK Bank is geared to welcome Israeli businessmen?
Thanks, Sudhi. And I'll just second what Mr. Valrani said, that in all management classes, what you don't learn is peace provides the greatest business model, and peace precede the great economic outcome to follow. So that's a great beginning. It's a beginning that 2 years back, it was highly unlikely, but the rulers has the vision and the two countries came together. Not only it provides peace and stability, it also start a great foundation of one of the strongest economic bloc in future. Of course, banks in UAE are very excited. I think 2 large banks are already in advanced discussion to have correspondent banking. We as RAK Bank has also reached out to our counterparts in Israel to start our correspondent banking, as well as exchange notes on how to do business together. But like you said, on the SME front, if you evaluate the SME diaspora in UAE particularly, one of the age-old problem was to access to modern technology. And with this partnership, a lot of high-definition technology, be it in defense, oil and gas, or be it in life sciences, or even in high-end fabrication and engineering work, Israel has some interesting use cases and a proven work world over. In response, what UAE provides, an excellent trade corridor, excellent location, excellent infrastructure, excellent manpower. So it's a partnership of equal opportunities, and banks as a facilitator of any trade transaction or business partnership. Now coming specifically to SMEs, we think that with this partnership there'll be a whole of opportunities for the UAE businessman as well as the Israeli businessman to come together and access the technology and capital from each other country, and access to the much wider market, which was not even possible 6 months before. So I think all in all, it's a golden opportunity served served on our plates, and we will be only fool not to take advantage of that.
Yeah, thank you. And what do you think the opportunities on SME businesses? What sectors will be in demand? Have you identified?
So if you see the construct of Israeli economy, Israel is a large service-based economy which thrives on technology, and of course the diamond and defense and agriculture, and these are large sectors. But effectively, if you deconstruct the composition of Israeli economy, the service plays a major role, and service comes with the high-skilled manpower. So that is one area where service and technology, I will see that will be the sunrise industry, where both countries can take access, and SMEs can take definitive advantage of that opportunity.
Thank you. Any advice to Israeli embassies? We have SMEs. There are a lot of people who are talking to us. They are interacting with the government. What is your advice to the Israelis?
I'll just pick what Doran said, that why Israeli and Indian always make good friends, because both community are always love talking and they're sweet talkers. So that's one beginning, and that is where I see that the personal warmth and intelligent mind, when they come together with the positivity, it will create future which all of us will remember. So let's keep smiling and keep smiling and start doing business together.
Thank you so much. I must say about your initiative during pandemic times, She Means Business, was an excellent initiative. And true to your tagline, behind I can see you are simply better.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you. I now go next to Moshe Kohli. What are your thoughts on the UAE-Israel-India business corridor? How do you think we can build a platform wherein Dubai and UAE could bridge between UAE and Israel as a cooperation? It's a very interesting subject because Israel works closely with many states in India, and UAE is a conduit. So what is your take on that, Moshe Kohli?
I think essentially, if you allow me to say that, as Dr. Dan had said earlier, that we are countries of people who are entrepreneurs. And when entrepreneurs decide to think and do things together, the opportunity is huge. And strategically, between India and the UAE, there has been a huge upsurge in the last 20 years. And now with this new partnership, which Israel has forged with the UAE, Israel also goes back to India in great areas of cooperation. Like in my own state in Punjab, we just had the Chief Minister visit Israel. And Punjab, as you know, is the food bowl of India. And we provide, we're only 1.5% of the total landmass, but we produce 38% of India's food. And Punjab, as the name means, Panj is 5 and Ab is water. We are the land of 5 rivers or 5 waters. So we went to Israel, and they have cooperated with us in areas of essentially food. So food in terms of management of hybrid and growing of crop, which is to improve production. We've done greenhouse technology. We've done how to produce citrus fruits. We've also gone into water management and treatment of water, which is the strengths of Israel. The Indian huge diaspora in the UAE and the entrepreneurship of the Israeli and the Indian always needs a conduit to make things happen. And with these energies or synergies which are being produced now, I see that there is a huge opportunity for Israeli companies to talk to their partners in Dubai, Indian companies to talk to their kin in the UAE, and for a great triangle kind of a merger to take place. The opportunity is huge in India in terms of, I mean, you've got 1.3 billion people to sell to. You've got a huge middle class, which has tremendous buying power. We have great talent in terms of production. So I think it's a huge opportunity, which I think the IBPC has taken on. And I see a great future in this triangle working out to great success. Thank you.
And the India-Israel bilateral trade stands at $5 billion excluding defense. And Israel has investments and tie-ups with 7 states in India. As we said, Gujarat, Haryana, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, and Punjab. And as you said, Punjab has got very extensive relationship with Israel. And the UAE-India business corridor stands at 95,000. The investment is on $95 billion. So this is a huge platform. Do you think this area will get very active after this Abraham Accord in the coming months?
Having said what the partnership has that already taken place between India and Israel and India and the UAE, for my own state itself, in the last Investors Summit, the UAE was our partner state. We're now actually engaging with the UAE to set up a small UAE industrial township within Punjab. Companies like Emaar, the Sharaf Group, DP World, the Lulu Group are already existing in Punjab, which is just one state. We are only 1.5% of India's landmass. So the opportunity to grow these numbers of 95 billion is huge. And I think this is an opportune time when the ink is not even dried on the Abraham Accord, that today we have this great webinar which has been set up of entrepreneurs sitting in Israel, the Indians sitting in Dubai, and Indians sitting within India to work together to make this happen. When I say Dubai, I mean the United Arab Emirates.
Thank you so much. I move on to our next panelist, Naveen Sharma. What is your take on the Abraham Accord and what areas you think the economy will benefit the most?
Good evening. The more we work on peace, less shelter we need on war. This is the very old saying that as long as we are working in peacetime, we will see the dividend. Mr. Walrani had mentioned that he starts his day with a mantra. It means that everybody matters and we should all work in perfect harmony with each other. So this is what I feel is a great opportunity, and we must not waste it. Now comes for the business. Both UAE and Israel are known for business economy. Size of the economy more or less same, but one thing is very interesting is that ease of doing business, both ranking is less than 50. Israel ranks 35, UAE 16. It means the starting the business is easy. Now, what business can come? We had a lengthy discussion, and the panelists and the speakers have given their ideas, but I feel the innovation is changing the world. Today, what we have seen, even the big corporation, today the first 5 companies in the world, if you take the size of the valuation, is very, very high, even higher than Africa continent, higher than Europe, because they are going in trillions. So Israel has the second largest startups in the world. And Israel has the most concentration as far as the high-tech industries are concerned in the world after the United States of America. The Dubai is the natural choice. The Israeli company can easily come to Dubai because Dubai is easy to start the business, and they can reap the benefit of the location. Because from the UAE has 1/3 of the world population, or some people say even the 40% of the world population is within the 4 hours of flying time of the UAE. So I think a lot of innovative companies, a lot of companies which are changing the way we are working will come, and we will see, we can see there is a movement in the real estate market. Ever since this peace accord is announced, the prices started going. It is happening now. So these are the sectors. I think the technology sectors, startups will have a great success in the UAE. As far as going back to Israel is concerned, Israel will benefit because UAE, 200 plus nationalities are living with each other for decades here. So a lot of tourism will take place. And as Mr. Walrani said, that the tour operators in Israel should be ready to see how many people will come. Flights are already announced. We can see from the first week of January, there will be a regular commercial flight which is going to Israel.
A quick answer if you can give. What are the areas of cooperation you expect between Israel and UAE?
Yeah, coming in the last had some disadvantage because most of the sectors are covered. But I will give you the basic necessities of life. Today, Israel is the only country in the world which has more trees than 50 years ago. So they have changed the environment, and we can see the water recycling is 90%, as one of the panelists, one of the speakers has said. So I can see a cooperation between the environment side because the climatic conditions are same. And we are talking about the food, but not long ago, the cherry tomato is invented in Israel. So the biofood is coming in big numbers because food is becoming better and better. And don't forget, Israel has the highest life expectancy in the world, which is 82. So I can see the cooperation in agriculture, especially the biofood, especially the new kind of food which is good for the brain, which is good for the body, is coming in big numbers over here. Agriculture is one area, environment is one area where cooperation can happen, and I think both the country will benefit.
Thank you, Naveen Sharma. I am informed that Mr. Suresh Kumar, Chairman, IBPC, would want to make a small announcement.
Thank you, Sudhir. Just wanted to mention, for the benefit of the audience, that IBPC is planning to take a delegation to Israel and would like to work on this immediately in the post-COVID era, especially reflecting the various sectors that were mentioned by the panelists. And I would welcome support from the panelists, many of whom have substantial business interests at this end, and indeed those from the panel who are from Israel. So just wanted to make this announcement and then invite IBPC members to register themselves. Thank you.
I hope we have, now it's the Q&A session. I hope we have very few minutes for taking at least one or two questions. I'll start I have a question for Khalid Al-Marsuki, Director, Commercial, Khalifa Industrial Zone, Abu Dhabi. Very specifically, what are the incentives and benefits available to Israeli companies and how long it takes to set up the process? Can you make it very quick, please?
Yeah, good afternoon, first of all, everyone, and thank you for this enjoyable and actually very informative sessions. I will summarize it, as you said, just summarize it now. What is the opportunity for the Israeli and generally for the international companies to be based in UAE and specifically in Abu Dhabi? So first of all, when a company decides to go outside, the first thing they have to look at is actually why I'm going to this country. Is it just I'm creating a hub there or there is a market there? So when it comes to the markets, the good things about Abu Dhabi and UAE also in general, they are creating millions of investment of project opportunities. So this is actually a great opportunities for the international company and for Indian companies, from Israeli companies to come and actually explore this opportunity. The second thing is that connectivities, I don't want to go in details already covered by our CEO, but actually that, as you know, that now GCC is considered within one custom bounded area. So this is a big market for any companies that want to come and set up a companies in UAE. And from that, they can also benefit from getting the access to the raw material within GCC, do the manufacturing there and export to the rest of the world.
I have one more question to you. Is there any government subsidies or government support available for companies setting up in KEZAD?
Now, before the COVID-19 and also during the COVID-19, a lot of initiatives have been brought to the customer, to the market actually. Few of them, just to mention that now, for example, there is also a subsidies and promotions and comes to the utilities. So once you set up your, let's say, mainly for this manufacturing company, so there is a great initiative that they will have a 10 years subsidies, and they will know what will be the price from the beginning up to 10 years. And also Abu Dhabi Investments Office also always bring subsidies and initiatives to the market, whether it is a financial support or non-financial support for different types of projects and sectors, which is actually, I would say, that very much related to the Indian and the Israeli businesses.
Thank you so much, my friend Khalid Al-Marzuki. Thank you so much. Another question to Doran Cohen. Are there possibilities for long-term visas, ownership of assets, or what is the ease of doing business in Israel?
Sorry, for long-term?
For long-term visas for investors from here, ownership of assets, and ease of doing business, ease of setting up businesses. How fast?
Actually, ownership of assets in Israel is no problem. There are no limitation on real estate or anything for being a Israeli citizen or resident or anything. Everyone can buy any business, whether companies or direct investment in real estate, and of course other business such as a commercial or high-tech or anything else. There are a few areas of infrastructure and communication that are limited, but in general, most of the areas are open for everyone. In Israel, I think that to buy a company is relatively easy. If you want to open a new business, you have to be much more acquainted with the local regulation and with the Israelis to be advised by Israeli law firm or someone else in order to maneuver between the regulations. But to acquire an existing business is relatively easy.
Thank you so much. And I would, there are many questions, but I will ask the panelists if there are any questions you may want to ask.
No, I would just like to thank you and IBPC.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So,
and I would like, it is nice meeting our friends from Israel. We hope to meet again.
Yeah,
we hope to host you here in Israel.
Thank you.
We already got 15. Thank you to all the speakers, Doran Rosenblum, Doran Cohen, Dr. Dan, Samir Chadurvedi, Sanjeev Datta, Dr. Azad Mopen, and to all the panelists, Mr. Mohan Walrani, Doran Cohen, Dheeraj Kanwar, Moshe Kohli, Khalid Al-Marzuki, and Naveen Sharma. Thank you all. Shukran, Toda Rabba. And now I pass on to Dilip Sinha, Secretary General of IBPC and the Vice President for US multinational Enven for the Middle East for his closing remarks.
I won't take more than 2 minutes. Dear members, Namaste, Salam Alaikum, good evening, Erev Tov to our Israeli friends. This has been a great evening where speakers have spoken about the emerging opportunities between Israel and UAE. Coming from India, I see that a tripartite business opportunity between UAE and India. There's huge opportunity. Between UAE and Israel, there's a great opportunity emerging for all the businessmen and entrepreneurs. Establishment of the relationship between the two is of historic significance, and it's emerging, as I mentioned, both for entrepreneurs, businessmen, and professionals alike. On behalf of IBPC, our governing board, our conveners and members, I would like to thank and appreciate the valuable time that all our guests, speakers, and panelists have given, and to Sudhir for organizing this on behalf of IBPC, great initiative. At the same time, I would like to make a special mention of our Israeli guests, Dr. Dan Shaham Ben Qayyun, Mr. Doran Cohen, and Mr. Doran Rosenblum for sparing valuable time and giving us an insight about Israel, which we were all looking forward to for business. Also, thank you, Mr. Mohan Walrani, who is our governor from Governing Council Board, and Dr. Azad Mopen for such inspiring thoughts, knowledge and insight into the business and also how to aspire, how to be ambitious and how to achieve success. I'm sure it will go a long way building up the relationship between the businessmen and entrepreneurs between the two countries. Certainly, thank you all the speakers and panelists once again for your time on behalf of IBPC. In good times, we look forward to organizing physical event where all of you will be present. And thanks to all the members who have in large number attended this evening's webinar. The only thing finally I can say is together we win. Thank you.